so much, all of you. It's just really touched my heart, your poetry. So I'm going to read a couple of poems. So for me, poetry comes through without like any real thought process. It comes through in one piece, and it comes from a place of rawness in me. And I don't know anything about writing poetry. I don't know what form any of this is, and I just leave it raw. So I choose not to edit it. A lot of times it comes to me when I'm in water, so it also comes from a soggy place in me. Perhaps the holy water of my soul. So my intention and prayer is, as with my art, is that some part or some phrase, something will touch your heart or inspire an awakening of some part of your soul that's been sleeping. So the first poem I'm going to read to you is called Rage of the Unseen Goddess. Are you devoured by the longing to be seen? Are you the apple that feeds the worm? The cracks in your heart that come from broken-hearted despair also let the light in. You run from the shadow even as it consumes you. Pray to the midnight goddess to be able to see in the dark. Goddess does not live in a box. Cherish being baffled. Embrace the unknown. Live in wonder. You rage at being unseen. Have you ever considered that perhaps the rage is the fire that lights the darkness? How long have you felt this burning? There is a crossroad where the living and the dead meet. It's on the road less traveled. Most people don't choose the scary places. They just end up there without knowing why. Open the graveyard of lost dreams. Let the skeletons out to dance and sing over the bones. That is where freedom lies. Love lives at the center of loss. Where are the people that you have loved and lost? Burning bright in the smokeless places? How can there be fire without smoke? Ask your soul, and don't come complaining to me if you don't hear the answer. Listen harder now. Blow out the candles on your pity party. That is just another smokescreen, a way of covering up who you truly are. Brilliant soul shine, divine spark, illuminator, heavenly midwife, mystical warrior of light. Your rage is not truly hot. It is more like ice. A frozen place that builds walls of coldness around your heart. What will it take to melt you? Burn your soul fire brighter. Light up the night. Become the witness to your own incandescence. If you think you have it all figured out, you are missing the point. Give yourself permission to rage, to wail, to mourn the lost places within you. Don't make an outcast of your rage. Ask her to be the heavenly midwife of your reawakening. How many veils do you need to peel away before you will allow yourself to be seen? Don't rush the peeling. The cliff doesn't really know where it ends. It just plunges to meet the ocean, and the why of it all is forgotten in the waves. That was when I was exploring my shadow side. So the next poem that I'm going to read to you is called Transformation. I embark upon this journey, my body, the vessel of my soul. My first transformation, birth. My mother cries out. I am born in fire and blood. The birthing waters cool me. I am pure passion and innocence. I sail forth into unknown territory. The wisdom of uncertainty rocks my cradle. I am adorned with love. I hear the words you cannot speak. I sense the suffering all around me. The world tries to take me down. I do not let it. My second transformation, I walk. I give my seeds to Mother Earth. She nourishes my roots. I am pure light and laughter. My veins are filled with joy. I lift my branches to the sky. The clouds of knowing are my pillow. I dream of glory. My third transformation, first blood. I am the womb of creation. I join the circle of women. The spiral of life is born within me. I am the kiss of Venus. Sensuality soothes my soul. I am pure beauty and grace. I am the infinite. My fourth transformation, death. My father is torn from this life. My heart is shattered. I am broken pieces, jagged edges. I am falling into an endless black hole. My spirit is covered with ashes. I am racked with pain. It holds me captive. Anger bars my way. Guilt is my jailer. I yearn for freedom. Prayers are my only anchor as the storm rages through me. In my burning bed, I dream of the phoenix. I am the winged flame. I am the resurrection. My dance is the rites of spring. A child is born within me. My fifth transformation, I give birth. My body is split in two. A valley opens between my mountains. The tree of life bursts from me. Blossoms bloom upon her branches. From the blood of my womb, from the flames of my passion, I give birth to this child. My blood binds together the broken fragments of myself. I pledge my body, my heart, my life to her well-being. Forevermore, my heart shall walk outside my body, joined to hers with the cord of my love. I have walked through the cavern of death. In giving birth to this child, I have given birth to myself. I drink from the chalice of life. I can taste immortality. My vision is the feast of miracles. So that's poetry. I'd be happy to take some questions. Do you want me to talk a little bit about my process of creating my art? So, I create with intentional creativity, and I use everything from my life: rage, passion, joy, bliss. It's all fuel for this creative self-expression. My intention is an intention to heal myself and to heal others with these images. I start my work with a prayer and a meditation. And if I'm working, for example, with the angelic realm, I will open my body, soul, mind, and spirit to receive their vibration and frequency, and pray to them to allow to bring through their messages of healing, mystery, grace, whatever needs to come through at that time for myself and for others. And I lay my hands on the canvas. I ask to be the conduit to receive it into myself, the spirit and the messages, and to bring it into form through the art that I create. And it's all created with conscious intention, so I will write on the canvas. Usually I write in watercolor pencil. I'll write the prayer or the message that came through, and then I spray it, and I put holy water in my spray bottle, and often in my water for my paints I put rose petals and lavender, and everything is a blessing and a prayer, and I spray the canvas down, and very wet. I work very wet initially. It's very intuitive, and I just let colors drip in, and I allow the spirits to reveal themselves to me. So I create a cosmic portal for them to come through. And as I'm
wine helps too, doesn't it?
Yeah, sure, wine, chocolate, sometimes. Yeah, candles. Yeah, so I'd be happy to answer any questions. I also teach in that way. So it's really about connecting to spirit and also connecting to what's inside you, which is where all the medicine of healing really lies. I believe that we each have the power to heal ourselves. There's nothing outside of us that heals us. And when we connect with our creative self-expression in whatever form, poetry, art, music, theater, we're accessing our life force energy. We're accessing and we're bringing it forth, and we're transforming and shifting it.
How long did it take you to complete that process of painting?
That's a great question. Thank you for that question. I actually lose track of time because I'm almost, I mean, some people say it's almost like a trance state. You know, I'm really, I don't know because I lose track. I love doing it and I don't usually pay that much attention, but this does have multiple layers. So I started this one with alcohol ink, which is really interesting to work with. It has these really bright, vibrant colors, but I basically I take there's like a medium that waters it down. It's actually alcohol, and you can also take denatured alcohol, and I'll put the painting on the floor and I'll throw or pour, and then I'll tilt it and shift it and allow it to drip, and then I usually have a paper towel, because when I start dabbing it with a paper towel, that's almost like the spirits. I start to see them, and I start to see them in what has emerged, and then I dialogue with them. Like, what's next? Like, oh, do you have a wing here? Oh, okay, what's... So, but this is about, I would say, probably at least 10 layers, 10 to 15 layers. So there's a lot of layering. I work very sheer. I work with, sometimes I start with alcohol ink, and then I work with fluid acrylics, and then sometimes I will switch to oils at the end.
Do you tend to work on one piece then at a time?
No, I'm not good about finishing things, and I don't like to stop my creative energy flow, so I'll have many pieces. And what I do, if I get stuck on something and she's not speaking to me, or I'm not listening well enough, or I'm not ready to listen, whatever, I'll just set it aside and I'll work on something else. Sometimes it can be a year even. And then when it's ready, it's like divine timing. It's ready, and then I just know. And then there are things like this show that inspires me to, really go and say, okay, you have to push through and complete everything, like all the details and painting the sides. And so sometimes, but that's just part of, it's part of the flow of life. So I let that inform me too. It's like if you're having a show or there's an event coming up, it's like, who wants to come forward here and be finished? So yeah.
You don't have to say a lot about this, one could, but what's been your journey up to this room filled with all these works of art. I guess I'm asking, have you had, not really so much have you had an art background, but can you just give us a sense of the journey that brought you to this?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I grew up with a father who is a professor of Italian Renaissance art history and also a mother who is in art history. So I was surrounded with art. We were in museums and churches all throughout my childhood, and we traveled through Europe. I learned how to walk in Venice. So I was always that was sort of my playground. Was my parents would take me and my brother to a museum and say, oh, go play and we'll see you in an hour or so. And we had, so we were in front of art all the time. My father was also bipolar, and that was a painful struggle for me. And I yearned to do something to help heal others and to help end suffering. And so when I went to college, I actually studied philosophy, religion, art history, but my major was psychology. And I went on and got a master's in psychiatric social work. And I worked in state mental hospital, I worked in locked wards, I worked with chronic schizophrenics and cancer patients and amputees, but I felt that the whole psychiatric model was horrible. It wasn't dignified, it wasn't respecting humanity, it wasn't respecting their spirit, and I often felt like we're more crazy out on the streets than some of the people who I saw, and I was just unable, I felt that it wasn't going where I wanted to go and I wasn't helping. And so I would go home and cry. I would go home and lie on my sofa and cry because I didn't feel like I was really helping. And so after I got my master's, I gave it up and I went into doing art, and I actually started doing marbleizing and faux finishing and working in people's homes. And then I met Tony Duquette, who is a world-renowned set designer for the San Francisco Opera, and he worked a lot with environments and mixed media, and I worked with him and learned a lot about that, and then went on to develop my own style with mixed media and met Shiloh Sophia McLeod in 2002, who is my beloved friend, teacher, and mentor, and we started working together, and she was developing this whole theory and movement around intentional creativity and the power of that to help us heal. So,
I just wanted to say two things. Our journey's been somewhat similar then, where we ended up, a holistic approach to life in general.
yes.
Especially, and then the professional fields, education, medicine, and mental health, which is where I am. No. And secondly, I learned to walk in Venice. That could be a title of your next poem. Great autobiography. I learned to walk in Venice. That's perfect. That's this whole journey here. And your poem about the rage of the goddess and everything. Having the courage to walk in Venice. It's the life's journey, the hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell talked about, whether it's a man or a woman.
Right. Thank you, Iris. It's beautiful.
I have a question more about the circular sort of nature of things. Having gone through, having seen and experienced so much trauma in your own life and in other people's lives, and developing this way of relating to it, how does that now come back towards your understanding of the psychiatric field, psychology, religion, all of that? How does this creative journey affect your understanding of those, or differ from how you understood that before you began it? I guess, how has it changed your understanding of those fields?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that. So, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I totally get your question, but I'm not sure of the answer also.
I guess the question is, there's a lot that led up to this being in the room and your experience, and you're creating it. How has that process of creating it altered the way you experience field of psychology, the field of psychiatry, and the types of things that you studied in school?
I think all the things that I learned were a really important part of maybe like an underpinning or foundation for this work that I'm doing. I think that what I've come to realize is that the work of Jung is really more in alignment with what I'm doing here in terms of the creative self-expression. I think when I look back on it, that, I mean, the system is so flawed. It's because I think they're doing really, in many ways, the opposite of what needs to be done to heal people. Because the whole, and this is what happened to my father, which was terribly tragic. But I believe that a lot of mental illness actually comes from creative self-expression that's been repressed. And when it's repressed and it's not allowed, that these parts of ourselves, of our psyche and our consciousness that we're not, you know, that are shut down or cut off or repressed, and they're not allowed to be expressed, that they distort into ways of being unhealthy. And so for me, I feel like creative self-expression is the answer for healing on many, many levels. And that even now they're discovering that, you know, you need meditation and all of these things, like the environment that you're in at hospitals, they're starting to like put in labyrinths. And so, does that answer?
Could you say that you are in now a place of integration and transformation? I don't know, but I'm just questioning. Would you say that's okay?
I'd say that I'm always in that place, and I probably always will be. I don't think it ends, and I don't think, I think it's a process, but absolutely yes. And I'm always looking at what are my stories? Like, what are my stories, and are these stories that I'm living working, or are they not working? And if they're not working, how am I going to shift them and transform them? And I do it with art. And everything goes in here, you know, sometimes I'm crying my eyes out, but I'm painting. Shiloh, you know, before this whole theory had sort of emerged more and been developed, I remember I would call Shiloh up when I was in the middle of my divorce, and I'd be like crying and sobbing. I'm like, honey, I don't know what to do. And she would be like, it's okay, honey, just keep painting, just keep painting. Put the snot in the painting, do the whole thing. Like, put the tears in there, rub the, you know, just keep painting. And it works. It really works. It's like you're transferring something from you into the canvas, and you don't have to hold it anymore. And so this space opens up in you to create a new story, or to expand, or to discover this part of yourself that you had somehow shut down. So it's all like the opening and the healing and then the paintings have messages, because sometimes I don't know what's coming through, and I'm like, I don't know why I put that in there. What happened with that? Like, what does that mean? And I see things, but then others see other things, which is the magic of it, you know? So.
Yeah, I wanted to add also though, so one of our great graces has been the flower child movement that happened in the 60s, because out of that came the human potential movement.
Yes.
And where we start, which guided us in this direction, and everything that I talked about earlier, incorporating all the arts, that holistic approach to life and the professional, healing and helping professions. Thank goodness, huh?
Yes.
Because you and I had a conversation at one of our Friday night gatherings I had seen Elizabeth from a distance, and something echoed and resonated in me. Something feels familiar. And it turns out we are from the East Coast, and we didn't cross paths at the Boston State Hospital, but what pit of hell that was.
It was.
I had a loved one who was Thorazine to death, you know.
So sorry.
You know.
Yeah.
And so, in connection with that, what kind of, apparently your dad didn't come to a good ending or something?
No.
But so, how were they trying to help him with that bipolar thing? Was he getting any help?
He was on lithium for a number of years, and then for a number of reasons that he was taken off of it, and then put on Prozac. But I think that there's so much more than. I think that what was happening then, there wasn't a real understanding, and there probably still isn't, although maybe much more, hopefully, of mental illness and all the different aspects that go into it. So there's more of the, send them to the psychiatrist, give them the drugs, test the blood levels, and that's it. But there's also all these other aspects that are happening where somebody like my father, for instance, when he had his first nervous breakdown, he stopped reading fiction, he stopped drawing. So he shut down. So there's this fear that happens, because some people talk about the shamanic journey is the same as schizophrenia, but it's just that the shaman knows how to come back, and the schizophrenic doesn't know how to come back. And there's also a book called Touched by Fire about manic depression, and the manic phase actually mimics what happens in the creative phase as an artist. So there's all these combinations, but imagine if there's this huge, there's this huge surge of all this creative energy, but it just gets
suppressing.
And there's so much fear around it. There's fear, there's shame. There was so much shame as well, back in those days. So I think that there's less shame around it now, but I still think we need to really work on that.
And in retrospect, I know with my loved ones who have suffered terribly like their dad, in retrospect, we have felt very sad that if we only knew then what we know now of this whole approach.
Right.
Well, what can you do?
What we can do is thank Elizabeth so much. And I think you're going to be here for the rest of the day.
Yes,
She's taking down the show.
Yeah.
So you'll have an opportunity to talk with her one-to-one or as a group. And the other, I think, ekphrastic poets will stay for a bit. And we're not shy, so if you want to see it,
I'd like to say something.
Please.
Briefly.
Absolutely. Why don't you let people know who you are?
I'm Elizabeth's
This is
mother.
my mom.
You can go out front, Mary.
You wanna go out
front? Go out front so we can see your face. Well, I just wanted to express to you what a moving experience this has been. First of all, the marvelous poetry that the four of you read I was moved to tears, and then of course seeing my daughter do this, but the whole interaction between the two was moving and thrilling, and I forgot to mention also the music. So it's been a great day. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I second that. I really, really thank you all for your beautiful forms of self-expression, and this is really, for me, a dream come true to have all the arts coming together and conversing with each other. And we are doing, we're changing things by what we're doing here today, and this is what needs to happen. We're changing the energetic vibration by our presence and by listening to each other and by sharing the beauty of our souls and our creative self-expression. So thank you all of you so much for coming, for sharing your beauty, your divine spark. And
Thank you.